Hi, I'm Solid Oxide, and I've beaten the crap out of every racing game I've ever played, except for this one. And my question for you is this the hardest game ever made? The year was 1999, and Star Wars Episode 1 was all anyone could talk about. LucasArts, capitalizing on the hype, launched the biggest marketing campaign in cinematic history. Everything was Star Wars. During the fourth generation of consoles, these games would sell like hotcakes, most renowned being Star Wars Racer. Originally a Nintendo 64 title, later received a port to the PS2. This game was everywhere, including McDonald's, making every kid want to go there and eat and play. Consoles were set up, all the kids in there just lined up, took turns, and raced each other. It's a fond memory indeed. I would like to preface this video saying I play this game fairly regularly, and I don't seem to get any better. This is possibly the hardest game I've ever played. I'm very close to platinuming NASCAR 25. I've beaten the crap out of Gran Turismo, Forza, you name it in racing on console, I've played it and beat the crap out of it, except for this game. Is it a learning problem? Is it just rigged? Well, let's take a look. The answer is yes, this game is rigged to shit. My main question is, why do we all love it? If it's rigged, if it's not fair, if it's cheating, why do we all love this game? Maybe we all don't play it as much as I do, but we all have very fond memories, not just from McDonald's, but maybe cousins coming over and playing this game. Maybe you just saw it on television, maybe you loved episode 1, maybe you didn't like any of it and still found a way to play and like and have a good memory with this game. But you would be completely wrong in assuming that it was all marketing strategy and PR. This game has innovated in ways that weren't really possible on the N64. Think about that. That's a cart. It's a cartridge game. They're fighting PS1, really. It's before GameCube and all that stuff. They had 007. Look at the speed. Now, granted, this is a PS2 port being played on PS5. But nevertheless, the original game did look like you were going fast. Everything's very rapid. Your draw distance doesn't give you a lot of time to maneuver your craft, which is why you end up crashing a lot. It's probably a big draw distance and latency problem among the controllers, especially the N64 controllers, because those were horrible. I have reflected on the question for quite some time. What makes this game good? It's hands down the worst racing game I've ever played as far as racing, but it's the best arcade racing game I've ever played, and I think that's the difference. Daytona USA doesn't hold a torch to this. It's a sci-fi racing game which, it uses cheap tactics, but the whole point of this game is co-op and multiplayer and feeling like you're in the Star Wars universe. And the cheating AI and the draw distance adds to it. Circling around to my point of the video here, Star Wars Galactic Racer is coming out, a proper sequel to the game that I'm talking about now, and man, does it look good. Hopefully we can get rid of that cheap AI, but look at these screenshots. I think people are going to play the crap out of this game. You gotta let me know, are you excited too about it? As excited as I am? Because I can't wait. Alright, back to the Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. Now look at this. Yeah, this game came out 25 years ago. And it looks great. But that didn't. Can't control this game worth a dick. You're going 500 miles an hour in a damn tube and you're wrecking and everything clips you. But if you stop thinking about this as, a legit pro racing game for your N64, PS2, and you start thinking about more arcade as Daytona 500 or, other arcade games like Forza. I just like putting that in there. In my old ass opinion, that's what's sorely missing on modern consoles is arcade racers. Co-op, sitting around, and it adds some mystique. Anyone can win the race because you never know what's going to happen on the racetrack. They got landmines and stuff, things that constantly take you out. So as far as an online racer in the modern ecosystem, this is not gonna do well. But if you look at it as an arcade, something to just throw on and play, or play with co-op, it gets better, and everybody enjoys it. And it complements Episode 1, and it complements the prequel trilogy. I've never had a game that made me feel so in tune with the world you'd watch in the movie. There isn't a Star Trek game that does that. There isn't any other game that really does that, in my opinion. Correct me if I'm wrong. Put it in the comments. Shovelware movie tie-in games are very hard to replicate what you see on... Not to call this game shovelware, but, I'm sure when they put it out, they didn't think it was going to be as big as it was. I'm really hoping that the new game that they're making is going to be just as good with the art. I like the arcade mechanics. They're going to be able to fix the tightness on the controls and the draw distance. All that's going to be fixed, so there shouldn't be any cheap deaths or kills. You should be able to play and get better. But also, I like the sci-fi and the arcadey elements. I think that's a missing piece in most racing games. For instance, on the PS2, there was Kinetica. That was a pretty good game. Crazy Taxi was a good game. Those are very arcadey games. Kinetica is more sci-fi. But even Kinetica, and that was on the PS2, they didn't do the speed correctly. They had all these barrel rolls and leaps and stuff, and you're running on as a person with wheels on your hands. But it never felt as good as this pod racing game. And, it's crazy that 30 years later I'm still talking about this game, and they're finally going to release a new one. Tell me, are you excited about that game? What else are you excited about? Tell me if there's some arcade racers that I don't know about. Maybe I'm completely missing the big picture on this one. But, I'm an old guy, so I know Daytona USA, I know a lot of them Dreamcast games and stuff. I just don't see it. It's like they've gotten away from those arcade games. Even arcade shooters don't really exist anymore. We need to come back to that. We need variety in our racing games. Not everything needs to be super serious simulation. Things can be just fine as arcade. Let me tie everything up here nice in a nice little bow. This is the best arcade racer you can play on the PS5 at the moment. Waiting with bated breath, excitement, and anticipation for the new game. Hopefully they knock it out of the park. The marketing strategy for the original trilogy worked. They got into McDonald's, they got in the toy aisles, everybody knew, talked about, played this game. Whether you gamed or not, you knew of this game. So it worked. Now I think they realize it more. I think they realize what they had. And now they're going to remake or, reimagine the game with modern graphics on modern hardware. I think it's going to be a hit. I think this is what was missing from the gaming landscape. And I'm really excited for it to come back. I hope you are too. Tell me your thoughts. What did you think about this game back in the day? What do you think of it now? Do you miss this style of game? Do I have a point with the arcade racer? I think it's a pretty solid point. But you might differ, so let me know. Anyway, this has been a Retro Oxide closer look at Star Wars Episode 1 Podracer. I hope you enjoy. Like, subscribe, and enjoy. Stay tuned in for more awesome content. This is Solid Oxide, ending transmission.
PlayStation